Hey everyone, Pugs here with one new review for y'all, because today I'm covering SpongeBob You're Fired, and this episode is special, but not just because of its 22-minute runtime. Nah, this episode is also special because it is the final episode of what we in the fandom call Season 9A, aka the roughly first half of Season 9. For those who might not know, the production and airing of Season 9 was split due to the second movie. This could have meant nothing had Seasons 9A and 9B not had some very clear differences between them. But that's not something I'm going to be talking about until at least my review of the first episodes of 9B, but more likely my overview of Season 9. So what's important is that today's episode is a special one for many reasons, and I'm excited to talk about it, because I've got a lot of thoughts about this episode. And speaking of a lot of thoughts, before I even say anything, I need y'all to know that if you're expecting a soapbox or tangent from me today, you're right to expect it. One is definitely happening, but given how unorganized my thoughts ended up being, I did put it in the closing thoughts. So if you want some political analysis about SpongeBob, plus other reflections, then be sure to stick around for that. And so, as always, I want to thank everyone for watching the video today. Covering these specials always makes me even more thankful than usual, since it just feels more significant. I don't know, something like that anyway. And now, let's just get right into it. My oh my oh my, SpongeBob You're Fired. It's been a long time since I've seen this one. This isn't so much the case today, but if you were a fan of this show at any point during the 2010s, and you were attuned to the online presence of this show's fanbase, then you'd know that SpongeBob You're Fired was another one of this show's most notorious episodes. It really did not help that this was the last episode that we had before a big hiatus. Yeah, some episodes premiered in the US after this one, but those episodes had already premiered in other countries first, so I don't count that. And as with literally any fandom that doesn't have anything new to talk about, the conversations just circled around and around, making opinions on this episode grow increasingly negative. It's actually really interesting to go on the SpongeBob forum I use, SpongeBuddyMania, and read the posts in the episode discussion for this episode. They started out incredibly positive. There were some negative reviews, but people really liked the episode. And then after a few months, it flipped like a switch. I can hazard a guess as to why. That's probably when the popular reviewers got around to it and started shitting on it, starting the cascade that influenced everyone, but wow, the switch up is pretty stark. These days, opinions about this episode are hardly what they used to be, in that they aren't nearly as vitriolic and have mellowed out into a meh feeling, and so, like with any notorious episode, it begs the question of if the hate surrounding this episode was ever warranted, or if it was simply another victim of over-hatred. Well, I guess all I can do is give my take on it, so let's just jump right in. I think that today I'd like to try to discuss some of the biggest complaints about the episode while also doing my normal chronological commentary. Let's see if I can balance these well. So, one of the biggest complaints about SpongeBob You're Fired was that it had too much filler, and this was a complaint that was really leveled towards the first few minutes of the episode. Let me just be straight with y'all. I don't think filler exists, especially not in a show like SpongeBob SquarePants. I think that all scenes have a purpose, and that at best their purposes differ, whether it be to advance the plot, or just be entertaining, or provide depth to characters. Like, no one goes through all the trouble of animating, voice acting, painting the backgrounds for, etc., a scene in animation just for shits and giggles. You know what I mean? So, to call literally anything in this show filler, is laughable. Wasted time, on the other hand, is a much more valid complaint to me, because if the scene can't fulfill the purpose it's meant to, then that's when I feel like my time is wasted. So what does this mean for this episode? Well, even when I fix up the complaint like this, I don't think it's valid. Like, for the first scene of this episode, yeah, this scene is admittedly pretty long. We watch as SpongeBob goes about his day at work, whilst Squidward slacks off. The biggest complaint I have here is that this is executed in that way where nothing much happens while a lot of time is taken up. Like, all the action is slow, with very few visual gags to keep me entertained. That's not filler, just underutilized time. But anyway, the point of this scene is to show how good SpongeBob is at his job and how much he enjoys it, which sets us up for the very next scene where Mr. Krabs fires him. Like, that's why Mr. Krabs fires him right after SpongeBob says he loves his job. This brings us to the next complaint, which is that the plot of this episode isn't good, as in the motivating factors that drive the plot are weak and nonsensical. Now this I do agree with. Mr. Krabs fires SpongeBob, his best worker, which is why we see Squidward sleeping at first to show this irony, to save a nickel. Two parts of me are worrying about this, because on one hand, I see what they're trying to do here. In theory, it's funny that Mr. Krabs is making this utterly abysmal business decision to save even less than a quick buck. But on the other hand, it's frustrating that Mr. Krabs is making this utterly abysmal business decision to save even less than the quick buck. Every time I watch this episode, I have this conflicted feeling about the plot, and it annoys me. I hate when I feel like I'm overthinking an episode, which is funny because that's literally the basis for this YouTube channel. But like, it can be so annoying when you can see where the joke is, and no matter how hard you try, you just can't laugh. That's how I feel about this plot. Like, it's in character for Mr. Krabs to do this, and Mr. Krabs using those air quotes about how not paying SpongeBob is illegal and he'd lose his vendor's license is amusing, and SpongeBob's initial dramatic reaction is amusing. But none of this makes me actually like the plot. And y'all already know I don't play about my boy SpongeBob being mistreated, so that certainly is not helping here. And I got my Mr. Krabs SpongeBob father-son confirmation, but at what cost? We then get the most infamous part of the episode, which is the part where SpongeBob cries for a while in a visually and auditorily unappealing way. Yeah, this isn't great. No, it's not filler, it's just underutilized time. And yes, there were attempts at humor here, but they just weren't working given how unpleasant SpongeBob's crying is. SpongeBob goes home dejectedly and cries a bit more, as well as mopes around. This part of the episode is fine. I like the drama of it all, especially with the OST in the background, and I think that it leads into the most interesting aspect of the episode, which is the prospect of a SpongeBob without the Krusty Krab. This reminds me a lot of Whatever Happened to SpongeBob. It's interesting to see SpongeBob outside of his familiar environment, and I think that this episode missed some big opportunities to capitalize on this interesting idea, especially as we literally watch SpongeBob mope around without a purpose for so much of the episode. Patrick then enters the episode also crying, and I'm realizing that my patience for the crying is growing thin. Also, this first bit between SpongeBob and Patrick where SpongeBob is trying to say he got fired takes far too long. Like, this is not Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 3, stop it. But anyway, I find it amusing that Patrick is all eager to show SpongeBob about the wonders of the unemployed lifestyle. Like, is the basis of the joke the classist idea that unemployment is a moral failing, which is why Patrick is acting more like a bum than someone who is unemployed? Yes. But if I just do some cognitive reframing, where Patrick is making a conscious choice not to feed into the capitalist machine, and unemployment is fun because you get to reconnect with yourself outside of being exploited, then suddenly I have no qualms about laughing anymore. I'm joking, but I guess that is a preview for my actual soapbox later on. Anyway, Patrick trying to teach SpongeBob about fun employment was at least interesting, if kind of dull at times, or most of the time. It's just not right to see SpongeBob so without purpose. It doesn't fit him. Also, the idea that Sandy exploits unemployed people for her experiments, that's so bad it's almost good. Anyway, eventually SpongeBob has enough of being unemployed and decides he needs to get himself a job. I like that Patrick is supportive here to the point of punching the mutated part of his face, but the Krusty Krab has been his life for so long that he can only make Krabby Patties. I love that this is a running gag in this show. It's funny every time, and I love how whenever SpongeBob gets fired, he's reminded of being fired at the Krusty Krab. And poor SpongeBob is so depressed in this part of the episode, but it's much more bearable to watch here, especially with SpongeBob's little quips, like how he wants the pizza guy's pepperoni to fall off. So this part of the episode is much more entertaining than everything that's come before so far, but I don't particularly love it. And really, the episode doesn't truly pick up until we're about, 17 minutes in, which is when all the restaurant owners start fighting over SpongeBob because they realize his patty hybrid creations are actually really good. Right before that, SpongeBob, like the great pet owner he is, makes a homemade can of snail po for Gary. I liked this moment, but anyway, all the people kidnapping and trying to straight up enslave SpongeBob is hilarious. I love how shady everyone is. This whole part of the episode is fun, chaotic, and then when Squidward comes to save SpongeBob, because it's obvious that it's Squidward as soon as he shows up, that's pretty fun too. But this does mean that SpongeBob goes back to the Krusty Krab with no grievances. And that's fine. It's not really SpongeBob's character to have grievances like that, not always. It was satisfying to watch both Squidward and Mr. Krabs beg for SpongeBob back, but I think it would have been helpful to have a couple cuts back to the Krusty Krab throughout the episode to really rub it in how much SpongeBob was needed. SpongeBob You're Fired, to me, is just a collection of a shit ton of missed opportunities. Like, this episode really could have been something interesting, but it spent far too much time on boring shit. Like, imagine if this episode took more of a big switch type of direction. I mean, it did, but only for the last 5 minutes. This episode also just felt so slow, which only compounds my disappointment because if the episode wasn't paced so slowly, it would have had more time to put the interesting shit in, so that just rubs salt in the wound. And while I certainly have problems with this episode, I also think this episode is, or at least was, overhated. For one thing, it's definitely not the scum of the earth. I don't think any of the characters are out of character. I don't think this episode has filler, although I think it does have a problem with utilizing its time effectively, which I think is the basis for a lot of the filler accusations. And then I do think the plot is weak, but again, not necessarily out of character. So overall, I think SpongeBob You're Fired was a poorly executed episode. And so there is a tier that it fits perfectly, and that tier is my mediocre tier, where it comes in with a score of 5.9 out of 10. As always, I'll be ending this video with some closing thoughts of mine. I was struggling so hard to stick to a cohesive narrative throughout this review. I don't know if it's just because of the mood I was in while writing the script, but I kept having all of these disparate thoughts that I was struggling to string together in a way that made sense and left me able to express what I was thinking and feeling. Hopefully it all came out well. This is also why I stuck the soapbox I'm about to go on here in the closing thoughts, because no matter what I tried, I couldn't take these thoughts all the way to their fullest expression, if that makes sense. So what I'm about to say are just a lot of half-baked things that came to mind, because, I mean, come on. An episode like this, where Mr. Krabs fires SpongeBob over a nickel, where there's certainly commentary made about unemployment, where I was a child listening to other people's awful takes on unemployment when I'd watch them review this episode, please, of course I've got shit to say. So let me put my little soapbox hat on, and let's talk about this for a second. Watching this episode makes me realize that it's been a long time since I made my last semi-joke that this show is anti-capitalistic. No, obviously I don't think it truly is. I think at best it argues for a better capitalism if it's ever intentionally or incidentally making a commentary on economic systems. But anyway, I'm bringing this up because Mr. Krabs firing SpongeBob over a nickel is exactly how capitalists move. I mean, this show is doing it for jokes, but it also pretty accurately portrays the dispensability of people to capitalists. Ruining someone else's life to save their own bottom line is literally exactly what happens in the real world. I mean, we see it play out all the time. Watching this episode also makes me think of the way I used to view it, influenced by societal propaganda and other classist bullshit spewed by other SpongeBob reviewers at the time. The first time I reviewed this episode back in 2018, I did not like that the episode did not tell kids that unemployment is bad, as in like a moral failing. Yikes. This is an attitude that still very much exists, even among people who say that they're anti-capitalist, which is why one of the first insults you'll hear out of someone's mouth is calling somebody jobless. But it's also funny that I was upset that the episode didn't do this, because it literally did do this. It just wasn't in your face about it. But the way SpongeBob was portrayed while he was unemployed was supposed to be negative, to show that unemployment is, in fact, bad. Hell, Sandy even calls Patrick a freeloader. Younger me had analysis skills, but clearly they were not being put to use in that moment. But anyway, it is, I suppose, a bit saddening to see a show I love parroting this sort of bullshit. It's not surprising, not at all, but it just goes to show how deeply this thought of you have to work to be of value runs. Alright, I'm done now. Man. Next, I'm reviewing the second movie. Some big undertakings lately. Next review may or may not come out a little late. I'll keep y'all posted in the community tab. And with that, I think I'm going to close things out here, and so I'll see y'all in the next review.